Network. The show brings the temperature of sports to a whole new level. Whether it's a local opinion or a national agenda, everything is fair game. Remember, everyone has an opinion, but only few can back it up. Now sit back, crank up the volume, and if you think you can handle it, get ready for the heat.
And welcome back, everybody. This has been a long time coming. This has been a while here. We are Heat Ratio Live. It's been a first episode, and probably, I would say, I don't know, Dan, probably about 3 months. I'm your host, Tony Jason Cotillo. I'm joined. What I'm going to tell you now is this is going to be a new kind of style show. We are going to have different personalities all over the place. All over the place. We are going to bring Heat Ratio Live is going to encapsulate every single one of the Heat Ratio members. Flyer Nice guys, half court Heat guys, fourth and go, fancy firebox, sports skillet, you name it. Everybody that has a show on this network will be a part of this show. This will be the flagship show on everybody's station. So again, I'm your host, Tony Jigsaw Cotillo. I'm joined by Dan Green, joined by Nikki Nuts. We will have a bunch of people flowing in and out, and I've been waiting to do this for the longest time because it's one of my idols, but here we go.
I'm bad, and I'm better than ever.
And I got to say, I'm a big wrestling guy. That's
buddy.
Okay, and he was back last night for the wedding of Miz and Maurice, which I absolutely love. Everybody, yes, I am a wrestling fan. We already got comments coming in. Amanda, like, hey guys, Amanda checking in. Trevor checking in. Wait, this podcast is Trevor. Come on, man. Come on, Trev. Like, yes, Eric Bischoff all day. Exactly. That's what we do. Eric Bischoff all day. And let me just say a couple things before we get rolling. We got a ton of topics to talk about. Ton of topics. My man Dante checking in. Dante, what is up? It's been way too friggin' long. Okay? It's been way too long, but when silence happens, that doesn't mean progress isn't happening. And we got so many exciting things coming up. Next Tuesday, first live remote show at Steam Pub in beautiful Bucks County. Okay, just number one, we will be Tuesdays live remote. Now, what that means is we will be set up on stage. We will be doing the show simulcast live right here as you see it and live at the pub. We will be doing giveaways. We will allow people to grab the microphone if they want to. We will be doing segments. And then towards the end of the month, we're going to have a all 100% live show, hopefully for the Eagles and Cowboys game, where we're through the entire bar with every patron getting on a microphone. So I am absolutely back. And Andre, right there, back like a chiropractor. I love it. I love it. Trav, check it. Remote shows, man. You guys really do it. Oh, we tried, Travis. We tried. We're getting there, man. We're getting there. Trevor, as always, man. I seen you at the game the other day. I seen it with Free. I seen you. I love it. Good to hear you back. Good to hear you back. But that's the announcers for right now. But we have to get into some sports talk, and we're going to be adding people in here and there. We already got my man Nick, another guy from the HR squad, Flyer Nice squad, and we're going to start right off with this. We got a ton of topics tonight, and let's get on one of the big ones. And then we're going into 2022. Okay, and what better way to talk about than who wins a championship first? Now, this question, guys, was a lot easier, I feel like, about a year ago. And now everything's convoluted. Everything's messed up. It really is. Dan, in your opinion, now I got my own feelings on this. I'll go last. But it's not as easy as everybody thought. Now you really got to think because there's some drama on every single team. So if you had to pick, Dan, who's going to win a championship first this year? Or I should say, who's going to win a championship first out of our 4 or even 5 majors? I got to give you some love. They gave us a lot of excitement. Who would you think, Dan?
I'm going to go Phillies, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I mean, the Flyers are nowhere near there yet. The Sixers, have the ability, if they make that correct move and get over that hump that they can't get over. Eagles are still, in my opinion, a little bit away, but the Phillies have the talent if they make certain acquisitions in the offseason and they can get in the playoffs. Anything can happen in baseball because, it's one and done versus playing in a series. So I'd lean Phillies, but I'm not comfortable saying any of the 4 teams, to be honest with you.
It's tough. It's tough. And I know it's Nick. I'll go Nicky Nuts. He didn't pick the fly guys, man. And I got the 2 guys on the bottom here, Nick and Nick, the Nick and Nick show right here. Didn't pick the Flyers.
I'm
Nick,
a realist.
Is there a reason why we didn't pick the Flyers?
Yes, because they're a dumpster fire right now. That's why. And there is no hockey going on, so that messes with your head. That's the problem with this whole pick out of the 5. I would go Union first, to be honest with you. Nobody likes soccer, but I think they have the best chance of winning a championship out of these 4-5 teams. They almost made it.
I like it.
And every year they get a little bit better. So next year, I think they have a shot.
Jim Curtin will love you, brother. He will love you for saying that. As long as COVID doesn't hit that team again, and Andre Blake, is still in net, we got a good chance. Nick Tossi, are you going to pick the Eagles, or are you going to pick the Flyers? Who are you going to pick, buddy?
Well, it's funny, Tony. You said a year ago, 2 years ago, if you asked this question, the 2 teams that I would have picked 2 years ago are the 2 teams that I don't think have any chance at all, which are the Flyers and the Sixers right now. So, to me, I think it comes down to the Eagles and the Phillies. Can the Phillies shore up their desperate need of being able to close games with a bullpen is going to be big, and that's something you can fix within a year or 2. The Eagles kind of have the path of least resistance as far as sports go. You make the playoffs and you have to win 2 or 3 games to get there. And if they can shore up their defense, hopefully, I know we're going to talk about this a little later as GMs when we put our GM hats on. I think it could be the Eagles. So, I'd like to go Eagles on this one.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. Listen, I got a lot of love for the Union. I coach soccer. I love what they're doing, but they're still, I hate to say it, I'm going to get killed for this, but they're still a 1B to the 1A sports teams of this town. It is what it is. And then to your point with the Phillies, I just listen. I love me some Bryce Harper. I was a huge advocate for that major 13-year deal. I wanted nothing to do with Manny Machado. I love every minute of it. I love the JT Realmuto signing. He didn't give us what we needed last year. Unfortunately, I think Rhys Hoskins is a stiff. I'm sorry. Say what you want. He'll never be that guy that you expect him to be. And pitching wins championships, and they just don't have the pitching. Aaron Nola from an ace to a number 3. I mean, it's hard. So I agree with Nick. The Eagles amazingly are in this situation. We were killing Howie Roseman, killing him about how he can't draft, how he can't do that. And now what we have is an elite offensive line. We have, say what you want, but Jalen Hurts, I'm all on, and I'm going to bring my man Glock in pretty soon. I'm all in on a Jalen Hurts 2022 campaign because I want to rebuild the defense. We're going to get with that with the GM hat as well. But this team definitely has more momentum. And you look at that horrible division that they're in the NFC East. Anybody can win that any year. Joe Judge is back. Congratulations to Giants. It's another loser you got next all in on the Philadelphia Eagles. I got to bring my man. We're going to go 5 box here. I got to bring my man Glock in. Dave, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Oh, great, guys. I love listening to this. Let me ask you this one question, though. Who's the biggest superstar in Philly?
Bryce Harper.
Or Embiid.
I'm with Dan.
I think Embiid.
You win with superstars. Eagles going to win with Jalen Hurts?
We're going to
we'll get there.
We're going to get no battle, Glock. I'm telling you. I'm a Jalen guy. Listen, I get it. And we're going to talk about GM hats. And you're right. You win with superstars, but in baseball, you win with arms. You don't win with bats. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, to me, the Phillies just don't have enough arms. And me and Dan have talked about this before. The farm system is so depleted. Dombrowski is a guy that usually trades away all his picks. Well, guess what? Nobody wants any scrubs that we have anyway. So he can't even make this team better right now. So that's my problem, Dave. But you're right, Bryce Harper. I still think Joel Embiid is the superstar in this town. He's the number one star.
It's close. Yep.
Yeah, he's won this town over, in my opinion.
Dude, he just surpassed Iverson for averages. I mean, that's impressive for a center, 7-foot guy to have Allen Iverson numbers after the first 300 games. That is insane. You got to give him credit, man. He is a monster.
You do. And listen, we all remember the vision when he was drafted, the delay. Everybody was like, oh, he doesn't want to come here, right? They were all freaking out, right? He doesn't want to come here. But listen, that's over. The marriage is here. We are married to Joel Embiid. And that's why you see the thumbnail of this show with the X over Ben Simmons. Get that dope out of here. Please.
Go on.
Okay, get him out. I can't take it anymore, man. He has ruined this franchise. And not only has he ruined his franchise, he's ruining Joel Embiid's prime.
Yep.
And that's the biggest issue I have. That's the biggest issue I have. Now, Dan, you said Bryce Harper. So let me ask you this. Do the Phillies, what can they do in your mind to be able to compete for a championship next year in 2022? Do they have any shot to be able to do that next year?
Well, I mean, you are correct. Their minor league is woeful. However, there is no salary cap in baseball. And if Middleton decides to spend some money, you can get it the inorganic way of, poaching players off the free agent market. Hopefully Nola has a bounce back year. Wheeler, Eflin. I mean, Wheeler was a stud last year. Could have and should have won the Cy Young. Eflin's always solid. You loved Eflin. I remember you had high hopes for him. If you recall, I wasn't as big on Alec Boehm as everyone else. And I think I might be right, and I hate to be right at times. And I agree with you on Hoskins. That being said, they still got some pop in the lineup, and hopefully with key acquisitions, listen, you asked me if I had to pick one, am I guaranteeing it? Hell no. But I mean, I just don't, I think the Eagles are moving in the right direction, but I don't think they're anywhere near a Super Bowl contender for next year.
Interesting. And let's go right to that. And we are the GM of the Eagles. It's a good segue. And I'll go to my man, Nick Tossi.
Vanilla chocolate, man.
What's that?
Vanilla chocolate, man.
Yeah. You got to go right to it, man. What moves do you make in 2022? And Nick, if you're the GM, you put your, and I got it spelled wrong, but I'll fix that for people that are watching because I was doing this in a hectic craze. But what would you say? What is your mindset going into this year, whether it be quarterback, whether it be draft? What do you think this team needs to do to be in that upper echelon, maybe like the top 16 in the NFL?
I'll be honest with you. One of the things I would do wouldn't even wait till 2022, and that would be to put Steve Nelson on an extended contract. Because, I mean, it's not a guy you talk about a lot. And, big play Slay is on that side to make big plays. But Steven Nelson cancels big plays. You don't hear from this guy because he is so solid that your quarterbacks are either not throwing to him or he's just defending so well that he's just not making any noise. And he's just as solid as can be. I would definitely sign him sooner than later and get that done so you can shore up your corners for the next 2 years if you're going to try and make a run in that time. At that point, we got to look towards the draft and shore up the rest of the defense, especially at linebacker and at edge. So you've got 3 first-round picks coming to you this year, which, we got to put some trust in Howie here that he's going to do the right thing. I know he's made some mistakes in the past, but one thing he has added to this team, and you could talk about all the mistakes with Metcalf and Jefferson and all that, but there's depth here, and you win with depth. And we've got an offensive line that is on their second and third string guys like Herbig and your first round pick in Dickerson, and they're running all over the place in the last 3 or 4 games with these guys. So, but I would definitely start really scouting, getting my scouting team in place and getting them, having my meetings and trying to understand who we're trying to target at the linebacking core and possibly at edge and maybe a safety. And you could instantly, I mean, you could see what that, there's no Micah Parsons in this draft, but you could see what Dallas, went from, 0 to hero on the defensive side of the ball through the draft. And I think the Eagles can do that. And if I was the GM of this team, that's where I would be putting my focus right now. Signing Steve Nelson and working on getting this linebacking core and secondary up to the level where you can support what's going on with transitioning in this offense and this team getting better.
You got to get a great applause for that. You really do, because I'm right on board with you, 100%. Right on board, because I look at this defense, the defensive line, and we need a lot of help. You mentioned Micah Parsons. How good would he look on the Philadelphia Eagles? But I'm done going back and forth saying we should have had DK Metcalf. We just got to move on.
Right.
Like, we win between the trenches. And that's how you win games. Not to sound cliche. Andy Reid said it all the time, but it's true. You win between the trenches. And we have an elite offensive line. And Jason Kelce is an absolute warrior and not getting any younger. He's already contemplated retirement. You have Lane Johnson, who, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, right tackles in all of football, who's already had some mental health issues as well. So you have to, in this draft, we're not talking about getting the 7th pick or the 10th pick. We're probably talking like 18, 22, 23, which is fine. Get offensive and defensive linemen. I love the Steven Nelson talk. I do, because that's a guy that nobody talks about. Nobody talks about. And Dave, the thing about the secondary, another guy that nobody talks about is Avonte Maddox, who last year was playing out of position, and this year actually is playing the role we thought he could play, and actually playing pretty decent. So your GM had Dave Glockner's team, the Eagles 2022, the 4th and Go squad. Who you pick? What are you doing next year, Dave?
Little different, not totally off course from what you guys have. Definitely need defensive help. We all know how he's going to trade one pick. We can't be this rich and have fun with it, right? He's going to do something, twerk around, and then we'll have 3 in 2024. But really, we need it now. So I'm gonna focus on the now. I'm with you guys. I want to focus on defense immediately, but I also want wide receiver. You can say what you want, but I'm not out there paying for a wide receiver. We saw what Kenny Golladay did this year. Look at Marvin Jones down in Jacksonville. These guys goes, unless you're Devontae Adams, which he's not coming here. He's going where Rodgers goes. I don't think you're going to get a good free agent wide receiver, at least one of value. There's a lot of good young wide receivers, 2 out of Ohio State, 1 out of Bama. You can really load up on a good wide receiver, pair him with Devontae. My biggest problem with this team is Jalen Hurts. He's getting better, but he needs more tools. He needs more help. For him to be able to start to read these defenses and stretch the field, it can't be Jalen Reagor. It can't be Quez Watkins. For all we love those gadget guys. So I'm looking at I'm hoping Wilson. I wouldn't mind Olave, but I think they're both gone by the time we pick, like you said, Tony, down to 18. One position I am avoiding is quarterback. I'll probably go later for that. I will look something a little later. But Nakobe Dean's another one I'm really interested in, linebacker from Georgia. We watched, you said Micah Parsons. There was a little bit about Micah, why teams didn't really rush to the altar for him, right? He had some noise coming out of Penn State. He took the whole year off. So it wasn't really going to be a fit, but man, that's amazing. And then the linebacker the year before, amazing, Patrick Queen. So linebackers can succeed first-round picks. So I really like Dean out of Georgia, shored up with a cornerback. I'm not with you guys on Steven Nelson. He ranked 74th in PFF for cornerbacks this year. I mean, if I can give him a 1-2 year and just let him teach my guys, I'm good with that. I'm cool with that. He's probably cheap. You got him real late this year. But I would really like to go cornerback, Dean, and a receiver.
I like it. Javon checking in says, I'm using my first picks to add linebacker, defensive end, and interior O-line, then get a vet wide receiver if the price is right to add the offense. He mentions maybe Michael Gallup to pair up with Devontae Smith. I like that because I think that's where we need to go. Right, Dave, you hit on it. I mean, you talked about we need another receiver. Obviously, Reagor, listen, it's a bad pick. It's over, right? I'm not going to keep talking. It's a bad pick. We all know it's a bad pick. My issue is don't force it. Why are we forcing it? You see, they are obviously trying to force him into a role to show that maybe he can play. Listen, up here, he's gone. And, he's gone. You already know that. He can't play in Philadelphia anyway. He's another mental midget that goes to Instagram and throws on all his comments after the game and says how everybody says, I can't play. See, that's your problem. You're listening to noise. You're listening to noise where you should be learning a playbook. So I completely agree with that. I do. Nicky Nuts, man. You're Nicky Nuts' team in 2020. What is the Nuts crew going to do for the Eagles, man? What you got, buddy?
You definitely have to replace Kelsey because his backup right now sucks. He is not good.
Like Dickerson. Long-term is Dickerson. Dickerson was the center of Alabama.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep him at guard, though, Dave.
They might.
So,
but,
first thing is I'm replacing Kelsey, and then I'm going wide receiver. I think you have to get Smith some friggin' help because that catch that he made in that end zone is a 5-year veteran that is an absolute stud making that catch. That was one of the most impressive catches I've seen all year by any wide receivers, not just Eagles, any wide receivers, to drag that foot, and he knew he had it from the get-go. He said, this is all – you could even see it in his face. He goes, this review is bull. And he was so right. He had it down 100. And I think that'll help Hurts as well if he doesn't just have one guy that he can throw a ball up to and tell him to go get it. If he had two, this offense would be different. As far as the coaching, I don't know. He's still going to pass 1,000 times in the first half and then start running it. So does that help us? Yeah, it's got to give him options. And also, Hurts is hurt. You can see it. He's not running as much as he was, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I think he's making better decisions as far as where to go. He just doesn't have the arm to get it where he needs it to be. And I think he'll improve on that.
I agree.
So that's my angle. That's where I'm going in the draft. But, how he's going to pull off a miracle and draft another Watkins. And I mean, so I had no confidence in Howie whatsoever.
Yo, man, you can't kill Howie. Like, listen, I was the king of killing Howie, right? But, you got to look at what he's done, Nick. This team is actually in a really good spot. It really is. I mean, you look around the NFL, you talk about next guy up. Next guy up on this team, except for that stiff Herbig that you talk about, he just listen. I don't think I've ever seen. I need Askin on here just to call him a dope, right? Because that's exactly what he is. He's terrible. He's absolutely terrible.
You think he's terrible?
Right, terrible, man, terrible. Wow. Nick, I did not. You see something good out of him?
I do. I see potential in him for sure. I don't see him making really bad mistakes, and he's got the power too. So I don't know. It still remains to be seen on what he can bring to this team. He's not a starting offensive lineman. He's here for depth, but as a unit, he's really plugged and played real well with helping, filling in for the spots for the guys that have been hurt. So I don't know. I'm the jury's out on me for Herbig. I'm still a believer.
Just not your starting center. I mean, and to his defense,
I don't think he is a center though.
No,
right.
But
he's right here.
But when he comes in,
I mean at guard. That's what I say that. I mean at guard.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if God forbid Kelsey gets hurt, and we make the playoffs, we have a playoff run, he's going to be the guy that's probably
I think it'll be Dickerson, but if
I agree.
They'd probably have to, because I mean, and they don't do that. A couple times he's come in to replace Kelsey. They're stupid and they have him in shotgun. And both times he had a low snap and a high snap.
Oh,
you don't bring a kid rusty off the bench and throw him in shotgun. So they do make some coaching mistakes periodically, but that's
shout out to my man Mike Fuji, Broad Street South. My boys have an Angel doing big things. Check them out as well. BroadStreetSouth.com. So I think Kelsey's
I think Kelsey is actually going to play even if his leg was cut off if he made the playoffs. I don't think it would matter if he gets hurt or not because he's going to play. He's going to do whatever he's got to do. He's going to play just because he is the cornerstone of that team. He's where the heart begins.
Centerpiece.
He's where the heart begins, and it all revolves around him. And I guarantee you he will not miss a playoff game if they got to the playoffs or when they get to the playoffs.
I don't disagree with that. He's a warrior.
Listen. He's a warrior. That being said, certain injuries you just cannot battle through. But just to answer the Herbig question is ultimately what I was doing. I agree with Nick. He's a serviceable backup guard. I would not want him to be our future at center. And Dave, I remember reading somewhere, and Dickerson was a damn good center at Bama, but so I think I read somewhere he's getting almost too big to play center right now. Creed Humphreys is a big center too, so maybe.
Oh, he's so smart.
Yeah,
he's so smart.
Yeah. So, but I agree that the line's in good shape. Moving forward with the draft, they're gonna make a play to defensive end. Barnett's not gonna get re-signed. Sweat, I don't know if they regret the contract they gave him. Cox isn't getting any younger at the tackle position. So they have issues they have to address. Linebacker, they just continue to ignore. So we'll see if they value that maybe at least in the second round. And I'm actually liking Harris and Epps at depth at safety. And McLeod, despite his interception, you can see he's slow of foot now. He's just not the same guy anymore, but he's a leader and he's smart back there. But they need a lot of help with the defense. But to Tony's point regarding Howie, when he misses, he gets lucky, which maybe it's not luck. He blows it on Dillard, but then he gets Mulata in the 7th round, which is essentially like a first-round pick. So you could just like reverse their places in the draft, and you got a nice future left tackle for 10 years now.
Jeff
So
Stoutland. It's simple as that. So that's the name, Jeff Stoutland. He's the MVP of this team.
Yeah.
You say what you want. He is. You remember back in the day, your offensive line coach. When we had Juan Castillo back in the day before they did those Mickey Rouse charades and made him defensive coordinator, all that kind of stuff.
They were solid.
Right? That was ridiculous. Juan Castillo was the reason why we had such a good offensive line. And again, we have it in Stoutland. So you pay Stoutland whatever you want. You keep him here. He's a legend in this town. But let's go from one team to the next. And I know not everybody will have comments on this, but this is okay. But I want to know, who is to blame for the 76ers mess this year more? Is it Daryl Morey or is it Doc Rivers? And the reason why I asked this question is because Daryl Morey is supposed to be the savior. Daryl Morey comes from his prestigious job in Houston. He's out there playing basketball with his son. They ask him about, do you want to be a GM? Oh, no, I just want to spend time with my family, until the checkbook opens up and all of a sudden he's back on the snide again, right? And he's up on the high horse, and here he is for the Sixers, and he gets rid of that big contract with Al Horford, and everybody's like, oh, praise the Lord. How did he do it? And then we go on with this drama. And then we go on last year. We all know about last year, unfortunately. We all know what happened with the Sixers.
In my opinion,
it's very, very simple, right? With the Atlanta Hawks. That was terrible, right? Doc Rivers comes out. And again, we talk about mental midgets. We got a mental midget in Ben Simmons who's worried about banging the Kardashians and living the LA life. He could give two shits about Philadelphia and this team. Simple as that. It's what he does. And we already knew what kind of player he was going to be. And Doc Rivers throws fuel on the fire, says, I don't know if he's going to ever be a championship caliber point guard on this team. Doc's old school, man. I'm not holding Doc accountable for that. You got to grow up. I coach 15-year-old kids in soccer, and I get in their face as much as anybody. You got to grow up, throw a set of balls, and be a man. You're supposed to be a man in the NBA making millions of dollars. Deal with it. You don't like it? Go prove them wrong. So I don't blame Doc Rivers. I blame Daryl Morey because, again, he let this drag on. And who is the victim here? We are. The fans. Joel Embiid is the victim because it's his prime. And you're killing this dude's prime because you're trying to hold everybody's ass to the pedal here, and say, we're just going to keep finding them and fine. That's doing nobody any good. Nobody any good. Last thing I'll say is with the Eagles, spin back. Give you an example. I thought the Eagles should have traded Fletcher Cox and Zach Ertz 2 years ago when they were at an elite level, and they could have got a lot for them, and they didn't. And right now, you see a smidgen of Fletcher Cox, and you see they give away Zach Ertz for nothing. And I think this is the same scenario. You have to be able to forward think and say to yourself, what's going to happen with this team? And Daryl Morey failed when it comes to that. And right now, we're stuck picking up the pieces. So, Glock, I'm going to go right to you first. 76ers, man. Do you blame this mess more on Morey or do you blame it more on Doc?
So, bro, I'm with you. With Morey for this part, he's completely, effed up the Simmons stuff. I will say the roster construction this year and the way it is, I can't blame him too much. He was up against the luxury tax. He tried to fill in pieces. I thought George Niang was a good piece. I thought Drummond was an excellent piece. I hated Dwight Howard. Some people might have liked him, but it was too goofy shit for me. Like, I'm sorry, but it just couldn't do it, man. It was an automatic tee 2 minutes in the game. But so I can't blame him much for roster construction. But this Simmons situation, you knew coming out of that game 7, Tone, if you're a seasoned GM, you don't have your star going to the podium, you don't have your coach going to the podium, blaming the guy you want to trade. You knew you wanted to trade him for Harden, and you couldn't pull the trigger. You knew you were going to trade him this offseason, and you devalued him, and you let it get out of hand, and now it's your ego. And that's a big problem. He's not going to pull this trigger until someone comes talking to him begging. And he's wasting our time, he's wasting Embiid's time, and he's wasting this team's time. So I'm with you. He's completely screwed this up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You make a great point about Harden. I'd still take Harden to this day. Give me James all day long. I agree with you about the roster construction. He was kind of up against it. I get it. I love the Drummond signing, which I completely agree on. I think that was huge. I wasn't a big Howard guy. Everything you said, Dave, I completely agree. I just wish that Houston would have signed the dotted line, because James Harden was a Sixer if they would have just signed the deal. Yep. And right, and it didn't happen, and it didn't happen.
Yeah,
so it's unfortunate, and here we are. Here we are, because again, and Dan, we have players again. We've talked about this, that are playing starter minutes that shouldn't be starters. If you were able to have guys, listen, I love Curry, I love him, but Seth is not a starter. Nope. Danny Green is not a starter. Imagine Seth Curry being there playing 25 minutes a game off the bench instead of Korkmaz, right? I mean, this is you need another piece. That's why, God, I don't want to say his name, but I miss JB so much. I'm a big Jimmy Butler guy. I wish we'd have never let him go. We would have never had to Tobias would never be a Sixer right now, because we would have JB all day long. So, Dan, who do you blame more, Morey or Rivers?
No, I agree with both your points regarding the current Simmons debacle. So I'm not going to expand on that any further, because you guys hit the nail on the head. That being said, when they hired Doc Rivers, I was thrilled, but he hasn't been a terrific coach, in my opinion, the past 2 years with us. I mean, his blown fourth quarter leads is pretty legendary now. He did it a lot with the Clippers back in the day, and he's done it with us. We've talked the few times I was on Half Court Heat with you about his rotation with the players, and we were like, yeah, let him do it now to get the players rest. He won't do it in the playoffs, and he did. He would bring like the whole second unit in the playoffs at times, and you're like, you can't ever have Ben or Joel off the court. One of them's always got to be in a court. But yeah, so I'm not thrilled with his coaching, to be honest with you. So even if we made like a super trade somehow, like Morey surprised the crap out of us, I'll ask you that. I'll pose this question: do you have faith in Doc leading this team deep into the playoffs? Does he look like a great coach to you?
Listen, I'm with Doc. I understand everybody's going to bring up and say, listen, he won with the Celtics, he won with KG, with that great team. I get it, right? And he choked with the Clippers. Listen, man, he's a veteran player. Listen, I got a package playing down there. I go down there a lot. I sit across on the Sixers bench, and I watch the communication. We could disagree with all his rotations all we want, but I think the reason why he tries to play with the rotations so much is because, like Dave said, the roster construction is not very good. He's trying to find anything he can in certain circumstances. He knows some of those guys are playing too many minutes, but what else can he do? So I don't fault him, but to bring up your point, Dan, to go with your question about, I do feel confident in Doc. I do. I get him the right pieces, because he's shown with the right pieces he can ball out. And listen, you say whatever you want with the Clippers. That shit happens, man. It happens. Go talk to PG-13, who shot like 0 for 13. Okay, that wasn't Doc. That wasn't Doc. That was the team. So it happens, right? Javon says, imagine they trade Ben Simmons in the offseason. They could have gotten DeJounte Murray or Bradley Beal, which they still can get. I take either one of those guys.
Hell yeah.
Either one of those guys. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and again, here's my thing. Everybody says, well, you don't want to take pennies on the dollar. Right now, we're getting zero production. Zero. So if you told me that, you know, you could trade him for Shy, if you told me you could trade him for Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, I don't care. Those guys are going to give me more than what I'm getting right now. He will never play in a Sixers uniform again. So what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? We're just going to let the guy walk? Just let him fine him for 2 years and be done? No. So they have to make a deal. And this 100% is on Daryl Morey, in my opinion. 100%. Nicky Nuts, you got a take on this, buddy?
Yeah, actually, I do. It's not either one of them's problem. This is Brown's fault. He catered to Simmons all the time. He wasn't a head coach. He got rid of Jimmy Butler, our only really great star, and we would have had at least one champion by now because he is an absolute he's the guy that doesn't discipline any child whatsoever. He tells them to go sit on the couch and play your PlayStation. That's not a stinking punishment. For the love of God, do what needs to be done. Simmons is a child. He is acting like a child, and he needs to go. They need to make a deal like tomorrow because I'm tired of hearing of it. I'm tired of hearing all the BS about Simmons. He's a child. He's holding out, and he's holding this franchise in handcuffs, and he needs to be dealt with as such because
Wait a minute.
Wait, did you say this is on Brett Brown?
Yeah,
playing Brett Brown.
Absolutely. Because Doc Rivers came in and tried to say, dude, we need you to shoot. We need you to shoot. And he goes, what? I didn't shoot then and I was fine. So what is Rivers supposed to do? Tell the guy to go out there and make him shoot and show him how to put an elbow in front of the basketball and shoot? I mean, the guy won't shoot. He's an absolute hazard and he needs to go now. I'm so sick of hearing about Simmons. He is one of the typical NBA players that get catered to because they call him a star, which that has to stop. I mean, you can't have players running a league, and that's what they do. Look at Westbrook. He is destroying the Lakers.
Well, there's a reason why. Happened. There's a reason why he makes his circles, man. There's a reason why.
And he burns every bridge that he has. And that's what Simmons is. He's going to go to another team. He's going to burn another bridge. Why do you think they don't have offers for him? Because he screwed up himself. He screwed himself. And as far as I'm concerned, Morey is just sitting here saying, I need at least a first-round draft pick out of this. And he's not getting it because Simmons wanted to be a crybaby and pout in the corner.
He's not going to get it. It's as simple as that.
There's, if I could, there's multiple angles with this. I mean, not only is getting a viable player back important, but you have to match salaries to some extent. So you can't just say I want this guy if you can't bring someone else back from their roster to make the salaries line up. Tony and I shared the same brain. We kind of took punishment from a lot of Ben defenders. And I said, there's regular season Ben and there's playoff Ben. Let me see what playoff Ben looks like next year. And I'll give you a fair assessment on what I think our future holds. And playoff Ben last year was the worst playoff Ben we've ever seen. And the NBA sees that too. So you got the entitled brat. You've got, if I see it and Tony sees it and Dave sees it, smart general managers see it. So we're not going to get, as Tony said, a dollar for dollar trade. We're going to get pennies on the dollar because he's not that great.
Let me just say one thing about that with the NBA landscape. We're not, but think of Cleveland, think of Minnesota, think of Sacramento, think of teams that cannot sign major free agents. They would actually, I think, take a chance. I think you're maybe not going to get one for one. I'm with you. But I think there's a package out there that works. A guy like Pop, I do think would dangle DeJounte Murray. You would probably get Lonnie Walker back too, maybe Keldon Johnson, and have to throw a first rounder back at him. You're matching the salaries, then giving them something a little sweet. So I still think there's NBA teams out there that will do it because There's teams that have zero shot to ever sign an A, a B, or a C free agent, and they know it. They can
And he
only
got
grow
him for
them.
4 more years. So
Yeah, you're right. So I do think there's a chance you'll get somebody decent, somebody. And Tony, you said the names I love. I love Halliburton. I love Fox too, but I'm falling back with how bad he's playing right now. I hope it's on purpose. But there's some names out there.
Yeah, something's going to happen. I firmly believe that. It's just a matter of when it happens and who it is and how it alters his franchise. But let's do. We only got a couple seconds left, but let's do something fun. What we used to always do on this show is we always try to make a fun topic. And unfortunately, because I'm a very opinionated guy, I call it the Jigsaw Chronicles. And I literally have a book of daily routines that I do, things that just boggle my brain sometimes. And the Jigsaw Chronicles tonight are going to be shopping cart violators. And I got to ask this question. So, number one, I've talked about this before. I hate ShopRite. Okay. I think it's the worst supermarket in the world. It's the smallest, most narrowest aisles I've ever seen. They put displays everywhere you can't move. No matter where you go, you're hitting a box over. You're knocking something over. You can't move. I've had more ankles broken in ShopRite than any other supermarket in the United States. Now, let me just say something about shopping cart violators. When you have a shopping cart, why do you feel the need to leave your cart in the middle of the aisle and go shop 2 aisles over to go grab what you need, leaving your cart? Now, everybody has no idea what's going on. They don't know. Is it somebody's car? Is it a throwback car? Is it a worker's car? Do we move the car? Do we take the car? Right? That is the ultimate violation, in my opinion. And every time I go in these supermarkets, somebody's doing it. And I don't know why. Just bring the cart with you. Why do you have to leave the cart? I don't understand. There's a reason why we have carts. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's one thing that boggles my mind. We talked about Burger King on this show. We've talked about CVS, but this isn't just a specific, a supermarket in general. This is just this violation, in my opinion. So, Mr. Tosti, I got to ask you, man, do you feel my pain?
Who are these people that do that? Are they the same people that call spaghetti sauce gravy? These people are? They're driving in the left-hand lane of the Pennsylvania Turnpike going 45 miles an hour when you're trying to get to work and you're 6 minutes late. That's who these people are. I don't know any of these people. And Tony, I grew up in Roxborough and we had a ShopRite, and that's where we went. We did all our shopping. So ShopRite is near and dear to my heart, and I get it. I mean, but these shopping cart people not only do that, then they go to their car with their groceries and they put them in their car and they leave their freaking cart in the middle of the parking lot. Like, return the cart to the cart garage and go on with your business. I don't know who these people are. I don't know. I'm not friends with any of them.
Me neither, because I know I don't do it. But you bring up a huge point about the laziness of society that can't walk a shopping cart back to the rack. That is the absolute worst. And there you go. Jay checking in. Sports Skill Radio checking in. Yep. People who don't put the shopping cart back in the pen, leave it in the parking spot. My buddy Rick checking in. That's why we got married, so the wife does all the shopping. Put your foot down and tell, hey, Rick, you've met my wife, right, Rick? Come on, bro. Let's go. We know how this goes. I know how you roll. You know how I roll. So let's keep it as status quo. Dave, what do you got, buddy?
No, listen. I want to go out shopping. I need a break from in here. So I don't care. If wife goes out shopping, it's double the bill, man. I mean, I'm not trying to count receipts, but I'm telling you, I know what I'm doing. I got my earphones in. I'm listening to you guys. It's my time. I love shopping, but I'm going to be honest. I got 2 things. I'm slightly a violator. Now, I'll tell you this.
Oh, here it comes.
I never go 2 aisles over. I never go 1 aisle over. But if I'm in this aisle and I see 3 carts ahead of me, and it's easier for me to weave through an 80-year-old, a big fat dude, and, this guy that's just staring at nothing, I'm going to walk up there real fast, grab my Oreos, run back to my cart. So I will tell you, I do park it in the aisle. I won't go 2, 3 over. But in the aisle, when you see congestion, like you said, ShopRite's tight, man. I'm not trying to battle these people. I'm trying to stay away. But parking lot, funny story. Today, I get to ShopRite. I did what you guys did. I pulled in a spot. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm just agreeing with you.
Yeah, I pulled in a spot. There's a cart, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll take this, whatever, right? It's mine. And this guy asked me, hey, you want me to take it back for you? I was like, no, I just parked. I'm using this. And he starts going. I was like, but I'll take yours. So I take his up. Good deed, leaving it. Put it in the. I come back out to my car. There's another cart on my car. I think these people. Now I got to take 2 more back. Yeah, they're the worst. They're the worst.
That is terrible. That is terrible. And see, this is what happens when we bring up the Jigsaw Chronicles. This is what happens. We went through we went through a whole segment on the Burger King drive-through, right? We brought it up. Bring that episode. And how about listen? Say what it is. This is an adult show, but I still want to know, and they still do it. Why the intimate sexual toys are in the aisle for prescriptions at CVS? Who the hell wants to stand at? You're standing there waiting for prescriptions, and you learn over, and there's the Trojans, and there's the lube. Who does that? Right? I sat there and I watched a mom with her 2 kids, and Johnny's over there pouring out his hand, asking mommy, "What is this?" That's just terrible marketing. Why would you do that? I have no idea.
Sex sells, Tony. Sex sells.
I hear you. But come on. You got a whole store. You can't put that somewhere else. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous, man.
They need a back room like the video stores had for all the racy videos. They will text you with all the.
Let me tell you about. I managed a video store as an 18-year-old kid. It was called Video Update in the Mayfair section of Philadelphia, and I'll break FCC rules if we talk about that back room. That's all I can say. That's another episode for another day. Amanda says, "You guys crack. We all love it." Amanda, thanks for checking in as always. Let's go on the next subject. So we get this rolling. I love this. I think you guys are going to like this. To me, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame has become a joke. I'm being honest. I'm a huge baseball guy, huge. But the way the writers are using this for their own personal vendettas and the dumbass votes they're doing, I don't want to get into Barry Bonds conversation because I'm a huge Barry Bonds guy. Listen. My whole deal is if you're going to keep one guy out, you got to keep them all out. And guys like Piazza shouldn't be in there. Bagwell, all those guys shouldn't be in there. David Ortiz shouldn't be getting votes right now. He failed a PED test. Okay, he failed a test. Never proved either way, but he failed a test. So why is he already a first ballot guy when Barry Bonds can't even sniff the whole thing? But that's regardless. We all have our opinions of that. But what I want to know is something different. I want to know if you could kick one guy out of Cooperstown. Who would it be? Not asking who you would put in. I want to know who you would remove if there's one guy who you would remove. And I'm going to go first. And my guy's not even a player because he's the ultimate violator, and that's Bud Selig. Because Bud Selig was lining his pockets with that race for the record bullshit with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. He knew they were roided up. He knew everything, and he looked the other way and didn't care because baseball was dead. They were dead in the water. They came back from the strike in 94, 95, and they couldn't sell out anything. And he knew that was the way to get asses in the seats and line his pockets. And then all of a sudden when it came out, now everybody's a violator. We're going to put all like he didn't know. Give me back. I would rather have Faye Vincent back, for Christ's sake. Bud Selig, to me, should not belong in Cooperstown for that specific reason. So, Dan, I'm gonna come to you first, buddy, because you've been low key tonight, but that's okay. You gotta host that Flyer Nice Guys pod, so that's okay. All right. So, but let me ask you, who would you kick out of Cooperstown, man?
Well, one of the reasons I'm low key is I have a supermarket phobia. So
phobia.
I used to work in an inner city supermarket in college. My uncle was a CEO for a chain in the Maryland area. So I worked my tail off in the Badlands in a supermarket, and it's like a Pavlovian experience for me even to this day to walk in the supermarket. It just brings back bad memories. So the wife does the shopping in this household. But
okay. All right,
so that's why I was quiet on that topic. It's a psychological thing. Me having psychological issues. Anyway, a guy that statistically he's got to be in the Hall of Fame. I totally get it, but he was a compiler. And if I were to tell you a guy has a 14-11 career win percentage or win-loss record average over his career, is that a Hall of Famer? A guy that only won 120 game season,
pretty average to me.
Played 23 years, made 4 All-Star teams, 120 win season. God rest his soul, but as a dominant player, that's how you get to be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. You've got to dominate year after year, not be a compiler. Now, he was a very good compiler as an older pitcher. I'll give him credit for that. But Don Sutton, to me, does not belong in the Hall of Fame.
I like that. I like that pick because listen, you went hardcore stats too, man. I like it because, again, that's the cool part. Is it's almost like a taste test, right? Is it Diet Coke? Is it Diet Pepsi? Whatever. Because if you take the name out of it and just put the stats, and you say, "Wait a minute, this dude's in the Hall of Fame." Like you start thinking about like how did he get voted in? But some of these guys they still can't get in, even if they're not steroid violators, right? They still can't get in. So
well, Sutton
did
did have 324 wins, which that's
the 300 wins.
The threshold is 300 wins, and it used to also be 3,000 strikeouts. But that being said, he pitched for 23 years to the age of 43, so he compiled those numbers over a long period of time. But he wasn't, to his credit, he wasn't a horrible old age pitcher. He was a 10, 12, 13 game winner in his older years, compiling the numbers to get above 300, but he was never, to me, a dominant force. And that, to me, is how you get in the Hall of Fame.
I'm in. I like it. I do. Dave, what do you got, buddy?
I'd love to say Derek Jeter just to, rile people up, but I get his value. He's there. But I'll go with the shortstop to me that, I grew up in the 80s baseball era, and it was a different game. And so, and you probably did too. I hated going out to St. Louis when they would just run rapping with Willie McGee, Vince Coleman. Oh. You could not beat that team on that turf. Tommy
Herr. Yeah. I remember that those days.
You couldn't touch them. But then I look at a guy like Tim Rock Reigns, and I sit there and I say, did he ever scare me? And for me, he never did. His volume, and I'm with Dan, it's a stat compiler, 24 years. Didn't even get the 3,000 hits. He's at 2,600. He is 5th all-time in stolen bases, but let's be real. He's 600 away from the top guy. It's not even close. He has 800. He's way away from 1,400, which is sitting there with Ricky Henderson, right? So Tim Raines doesn't feel like a Hall of Famer to me. It's not a guy that I would be like, wow, Tim Raines, here he comes, Hall of Famer. Can't wait to get his autograph. This guy's going to smoke us tonight. He got 1 for 4, maybe get a good play in the field. So for me, it's Tim Rock Reigns. I know he was good, not great.
I like it. Another good one, man. Another good one. Again, you talk about the numbers, the disparagement of the next guy up, right? Between the two, and that's one of the biggest things in the Hall of Fame. There's so many guys that are just guys, right? They're just guys. Like if anybody, and I said this before, one of my judgments. I mean, if anybody's a wrestling fan, there's a huge promo that goes back and forth with Cena and Roman Reigns from back in the day. He's like, "Yo, bro," right? He's like, "You're not the guy. You're a guy, right?" And there's a lot of a guys in the Hall of Fame, not the guys. So, Nick Tossi, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, listen, anybody we pull off is going to be a really good player, or pitcher or whatever, because they're there for a reason. So, you're going to have somebody in the audience say, "Oh man, he's really good," but it's not the Hall of really good. It's the Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of Elite. And to me, I look at a lot of pitchers that are there. I'm with Dan, we're lucky as a Philly fan base to have Jim Bunning in the Hall. He's not my pick, but he won 20 games one time. I mean, he's got some really good numbers, but he does not have Hall of Fame numbers. Burt Blyleven does not have Hall of Fame numbers. But my real pick is, a guy that I just really just hated to watch on the mound, and that was Bruce Sutter. I get it. He led the league in saves a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times. I get that. But so did Dan Quisenberry, and he was every bit as good, if not better. And so, how Sutter gets a pass into Cooperstown while Quisenberry gets like 4% of the vote, I think it was, is ridiculous. So this is not a plea right here, to write Quisenberry in and to wrong Sutter out. I just think, there's too much that's good and better than good in there, especially when it comes to pitching. And Sutter had a nice run. But, for more recent closers like Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman, those are A-list guys and pitchers that belong there. And, there's a long list of pitchers that you could probably be like, yeah, he was really good. But I mean, we're talking about the Hall of Fame. I go Bruce Sutter.
I like that.
Can I interject something?
Absolutely.
Sure, man.
This is the old school coming out of me again.
What's up, Adam?
I'm not. Yeah,
Always, man.
Adam, the best listener
Ever.
right?
He
But
is.
he's going to join us at Steam, by the way. I'm going to go join us at Steam. So round
Awesome.
one, us.
Awesome.
Adam.
So, I get what you're saying with Suter, but you also got to remember that was a different era of closers. Closers would come in the 6th, 7th inning and finish out the game. There were no 1-inning saves back in the day. So, from the perspective that Suter took the ball and went 3 innings every night or frequently, and was a prolific, save total guy. For his era, he was one of the best closers. But
today he's 30th on the list when it comes to saves.
But
and I get all that. I get all that. But.
Yeah. But because you can't close 40, 50 games and you're pitching 3 innings a night. Same with Goose Gossage. He was a multiple inning guy back in the day.
Raleigh fingers.
Right.
Yeah.
Lee
Arthur.
Yeah. Lee Arthur Smith. Lee Arthur.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I love it.
It's a great conversation, but we only got a couple minutes left. Want to keep the show under an hour. 45 minutes, but tonight with some special announcements. So, and we'll start this right off with Nicky Nuts because he didn't get to talk on the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. But I got a good question about my man Steph Curry, and I love these questions because, again, I'm basketball is my favorite sport. It just is. It's what I grew up on. Love every minute of it. And I tell you what, I never seen Steph Curry play until a couple weeks ago when I was down at the Wells Fargo Center. And I'll be honest with you. You know what? I was Michael Jordan. Obviously, he is my guy. At number 23, it's why I take it till 23. It's why 23 after everything. That's what I grew up on. But Steph Curry, I'll get back to Jordan. I've watched Jordan stop shows, stop time, right? It's almost like when I was talking about Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds stopped Sports Center. He stopped Beverly Hills 90210 when that was the deal, right? You were watching, Brandon and Kelly. Are they going to get back together? It's going to be Bill and Brenda. And all of a sudden, 700 home run, we're going to Barry Bonds, right? He stopped that kind of stuff. So Stephen Curry, to me, a guy that was never supposed to be this guy. Remember, when they drafted him, they said, it was 7th or 8th. Oh, no, this guy's got bad ankles. He's never going to turn into anything. This guy, fellas, could honestly be the GOAT. Honestly, I'm being honest with you, and here's my point. And I am a Jordan guy, and everybody's going to start talking about it's all 3 points. It's all 3 points. Stephen Curry is more than a 3-point machine. Okay, he is more. He on and off the court. See, this is what you have to realize when we talk about professional athletes. We were burying Ben Simmons, and rightfully so, because off the court he is not a good person. Say what you want, he's not. It's just not who he is. I'm not saying that's. Hey, listen, that's what he wants to do. That's up to him. But Steph Curry on and off the court is the man. And I have not watched a basketball player in the Wells Fargo Center since Allen Iverson to be able to just stop what you're doing, whether you eat popcorn, whether you cannot go to the bathroom, you cannot do anything with Steph Curry. This guy is must-see TV. And Michael Jordan was great, and he was the GOAT. Still the GOAT, in my opinion. Okay? He's still the GOAT, in my opinion. But 7 to 8 years of Michael Jordan, we're going to see 10 to 12 years of dominance from Steph Curry. And I'll tell you what, man, if he's not and doesn't become the GOAT, I'd like to know where you guys think he is on that list. So, Nicky Nuts, I'm going to come right to you first. You didn't get a chance to talk last time. I know everybody has their different fortes when it comes to heat ratio sports here, but we're talking about basketball. Can Steph Curry become the GOAT? And if not, where does he fall on your list, man?
I definitely think he is in the conversation, but as you, Tony, I am a Michael Jordan through and through guy. I work with a guy that preaches LeBron James. You can't compare this era with that era because it was completely defended, completely different back in the day. You had to actually create your own shot instead of having plays that created your shot. Michael Jordan absolutely, without a doubt, will never, in my eyes, will never be not the GOAT. He just transformed the entire game, and his worth ethic is second to none. I mean, look at Kobe. He took his reins, and he did everything he possibly could to emulate Michael Jordan. And there's just no comparison. Steph Curry, he is electric when he shoots that ball. I've never seen somebody shoot a nicer ball in my entire life. And and I've seen Larry Bird, which he has the goofiest shot, but he was money every time, and he would tell you how he was going to make it. So I have a problem with putting him as the GOAT right now. And any player that goes in this era cannot be the GOAT in my eyes, because this defense just lets people circus Olay. Go ahead, have your 2 points, or I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to close in. I'm not going to close out, and I'm just going to let you shoot that 3. I mean, they do it all the time in the NBA now, and it drives me bonkers, because the defense of old was absolutely the hardest defense to score against, because, dude, you weren't coming into the paint. If you went in the paint, you were getting hammered. And
Especially if you're going to Bay versus Detroit.
Right? Months. So that's my perspective, and I would put him up there probably 3rd in GOATs.
I like it. Listen, and that's why I afraid it's a question. Can he become the GOAT? Right? Can he become? Because I still think he's got 3 prime years left. I do. I think he's that good. I do. And listen, you talked about Jordan, and we all know that these kind of discussions are tough, because you mentioned one key word, and that's era, right? Because I still think that nobody gives Kareem Abdul-Jabbar the credit that he deserves, right? You talk about Will Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain, he would never be able to play in today's game, but he dominated yesterday's game, right? So it's hard because all those guys, in my opinion, are GOATs in their rightful era. You mentioned Kobe, another great. He's in my top 3. I love Kobe. Listen, the Mamba mentality, huge. LeBron, listen, I don't think it's 1-2. I don't think it's Jordan LeBron. I think LeBron's 3. We could argue this all day, but LeBron and me still is 3. I got to give it to him for what he's been able to do in Cleveland with nobody. Come on, man. He had a guy named Shumpert. Are you kidding me? And still won a championship. So you have to give the guy some kind of credit. I just don't like him personally. But Dave, what do you got when we talk about Steph Curry, man?
It's a great topic. Listen, he's not GOAT yet. I'm with Nikki. You almost have to absorb it a little bit, right? Yeah. So I'll tell a quick story. I'm a basketball guy too, Tone. You guys might know this name, might not, but growing up, I played against the Crispin brothers. Okay. Joe Crispin, excellent shooter, went to Penn State, ended up with the Lakers. He was, we play, and I'm a shooter too. We go across half court. He just start pulling up from the logo. He was doing it before it was sexy. And then, but it was like, he was just playing with us. But Steph made it cool, right? He turned this whole thing into he's brought this whole new aspect of basketball. We've never seen an era when you put up 60, 70% of your shots as 3-pointers. He's turned it into a whole different game. Big men are just phased out, except for the 3-4 you got in Jokic, Embiid, Towns. So there's something to that you have to really give Steph Curry a lot of credit for. He had changed basketball. Jordan did the same. The Jordan rules, Nick, you talked about it. You go in the lane, you were on the ground. It was a business decision. If you were going to go in, you knew you were going to get a couple of elbows and some other things to certain areas. But Jordan didn't care. He was going in because he wanted to win. And he changed the game a little bit, just like Steph is, Tone. So I think there's a chance down the line he's going to end up in that top 3, what we call the Rushmore, maybe top 4. I'm with you. LeBron's a little further down my list. I don't. That's a discussion for another day, I'm sure.
Yes.
But he did have Kyrie when he won that championship in Cleveland, and Kyrie saved his what. But LeBron, I respect. It's a conversation for a different day, but Steph is coming. Another championship. Whew, he could get there, man.
You said it right there. Another championship. Dan, what do you got, buddy?
The Mount Rushmore of basketball is a very hard topic to address, because you have the big man category. You've got the athletic guys that we're referencing, and Kobe, Michael, and LeBron. And then you got the 6'2" and under category, as it were, and the greatest pure shooter category, as it were. So Curry dominates the 6'2" and under category. He's the best pure shooter I've ever seen. But as far as and he's got the rings, but it's tough for me. I mean, and you can't. LeBron went to 10 straight finals, didn't he? I mean, you might not like the guy, but 10 straight finals.
Lost more than he won, though.
Well, listen, he's played with some, dreck, on some of those teams, but he
in
listen.
the East.
But yeah,
he picks his own team, Dan.
What's this?
He picks his own team, Dan. If they lose, it's on him. If they win, it's on him.
Well, that goes to the whole modern era of basketball. It really does.
Right.
I mean, Durant does that too. I mean, they've all done that to some extent. Yeah, and believe me, I don't like the dream teams that they're developing within the game. But I can't. It's a hard question. Is Curry better than Ray Allen? Yes.
100%.
My God, Reggie Miller would be the closest one that you'd have to ask about. But yeah, he's headed there, Tone. I mean, he's dynamic, and his ball skills can't be underestimated either. I mean, he can zigzag through traffic and do reverse layups and get through the lane. Granted, it's not the Charles Oakley, Bill Laimbeer lane that we've been discussing of the 80s and early 90s, but he can penetrate as well. So, but he's the greatest pure shooter I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's not even an argument, to be honest with you. But I always lean the 6'6" to 6'8" kind of guy in the three we've mentioned in Kobe, Michael, and LeBron. And then I love Hakeem Olajuwon. Shaq has to be in consideration. There's so many categories with basketball. Just like who's the greatest football player? There's a 50 quarterbacks that you can mention. There's 50 running backs. It's like, where do you draw the line? It's a tough question to address, in my opinion, but a great one.
It is. And what we will do is, because we did this and none of you guys on this panel were involved, and I want to do it again because it was such a fun segment. We did a 2-round draft, and what we did, it encapsulated all sports. It encapsulated baseball, hockey, football, basketball, and we had a snake draft. We all had picks, and we had to pick one player. And and we came out to we each had our 3 favorite players. We actually went 3 rounds, and it was pretty cool to see who would be our number 1 pick. Who would you pick? And I mean, the names, obviously, like who goes first? Is it Gretzky? Is it Lemieux? Things of that nature. Quarterbacks. Is it Staubach? Is it Marino? Is it Montana? It was pretty cool to see some of the names. So we're gonna do that. But look, we're gonna get out of here because we got a little bit over, which is okay. But I want to end by saying this. Number 1, I want to thank everybody. Support has been tremendous. I want to thank everybody on this show. You guys have been amazing with your own shows and helping this network grow. I was told a long time ago, about 2 years ago, by a specific person, I will not mention names, that I treated this too much like a job and I would never get to go where I wanted to go. And I kind of resented that. And I took that as fuel. And for people that know me, I don't do things half-ass. I go all in. So I appreciate everybody's support. We got so many fun things. I'm telling you, we're taking over Bucks County. I tell you that right now. You're going to see us in every avenue possible. Okay, whether it be, no pun intended, Nick Tossi, whether it be barbershops, whether it be delis, whether it be bars. I'm knocking down doors. I'm taking names, and the Heat Ratio Sports Team will be there. So make sure you follow us on all social. Right? It's the way we roll, man. It's the way we roll. YouTube is where you're going to find us. Linktree, you're going to find us. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell. There are so many great shows on this network, so many unique personalities. Listen, radio, I'm not going to knock it. It is what it is. But, people want something different. Go check us out. You might not be disappointed. I'm pretty sure that you will like it. And look, we get it. We at the end, we get a bot that comes, and I love this. Somebody read that. VOM. Yeah, okay. Whatever.
That's my boy. Right. That's it. He's my boy.
Exactly. But, man, we're going to get out of here. Everybody, I like to say this all the time. Everybody be safe. Be healthy. Catch us 1-4 Tuesday, next Tuesday, 7 to 8:30 at Steam Live at Bucks County. Check us out. Everybody, have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.